Good morning, good evening, and good night, wherever in the world you are, whatever time of day you are watching this. Hope you're doing well, and as promised, welcome to your latest Forest news. And I think a lot of people are going to like what we have to talk about today. Coming up on the news today, well, firstly, as I promised you guys earlier, 2 videos today, and we're going to ramp up the video and the content this week because we only have till this weekend before our beloved Nottingham Forest break for the World Cup. So let's get in as much content as we possibly can. But if you want to help me get that content out, all I ask from you is that you do hit that like button, subscribe as well to the channel if you're new, and if you really want to help and become a member, I'll give you a little hint here. This Saturday we'll be doing, well, this weekend, sorry, we'll be doing such a cool member giveaway. I'll be giving more details about it probably tomorrow on the Forest Forum. So make sure you're tuned in for that. But if you are a member, you will be eligible to win. Guys, in today's video, we are going to talk about VAR, but not in specific yesterday's stuff. We're going to look at everything relating to VAR in the Premier League. We will, as always, focus on Nottingham Forest, but we will bring you some interesting stats on it all. What I want you to do now is in the comments down below, just put in which team do you think, and don't cheat, has benefited the most from VAR this season. Is it Forest? Is it Man United? Who do you think it is? Let me know down below. I will reveal it in the middle of the video. So guys, let's get into this, but I want to start with a bit of Forest news as well. So my boy Morgan Gibbs-White is being investigated for speaking from the heart and speaking with passion after the match when he came out and said that we were cheated out of that game against Brentford. And who really can argue with him? When you tally up the incidents, for me, I feel that we should have had definitely one penalty, the Dennis one. Maybe you could argue the Morgan Gibbs-White one as well, although I do feel he poked his leg out. But look, I've seen those ones given plenty of times. But it is about the consistency, isn't it? The FA are investigating in him. What I'm trying to find out now is what kind of punishments can they give him? Is it just a fine, or can they actually suspend him? That's the thing that worries me. If it's a fine, he's got to take it on the chin and pay it. But for me, I just want to point out, and I'll give you the details as soon as I know them, but I just want to point out this guy is on another level. He really is. Not only is he been brilliant on the pitch for us for all this season, there have been a few bad games like he had against Arsenal, etc. But it's the way he's become a Forest boy. Like, you would not know, and I don't think even the Yatesy Super Fan Club and the Worrell Super Fan Club, I don't think will deny me this point, that Morgan Gibbs-White acts and behaves as if he's been Nottingham through and through. Anytime I don't know he's from Nottingham is when he opens his mouth and you hear the Brummie accent twang coming out of it. Apart from that, and the interview just underlines the passion that he has for the club as well. This guy's going to be levels. Just give him time and watch him develop. Look where he is now at 21, 22-ish. Think where he'll be when he starts to hit his prime around 24, 25, even 26. Hopefully he'll still be at Forest, and hopefully he will develop into the player I know he's going to become. But anyway, I will keep you posted on that. But let's move on to the main topic of this video, which is going to be VAR. I think the first thing we need to start with is to understand what is VAR. And I know it sounds like a dumb statement because we're all football fans, we all have our priority, we know our stuff. But really, do you really understand what VAR is? Because I'll be the first to admit there were certain things I thought they could do that apparently they can't do. For example, when we were at the match and Yates was pushed and it was deemed a foul but outside the box, my first question was, well, why the hell haven't they given us a free kick? Apparently they can't get involved. So I think, look, apologies if you guys already know it all, but before we go into the ins and outs of the stats of VAR, let's take a breath and let's quickly go through what actually VAR is. So I've got some wording for you guys here to make it easier and more understandable. And let's go through it. So if we start with what is VAR, let me bring that on the screen for you guys. So what is VAR and what will they review? So VAR can only review the following things. They can review a goal or a no goal, a penalty or a no penalty, a direct red card, but it can't be a second yellow card that will basically cause a double yellow card into a red. And they will review things that are mistaken identity. So, for example, if a player books the wrong person or sends the wrong player off, something like that, they can get involved in. Now, what will they not review? So, as I mentioned, any yellow cards, including second yellow cards that are leading to reds, and any free kick offences outside the box unless a red card offends or if it leads to a goal or a penalty, which is where the Ryan Yates one falls in to that bracket. So that's a quick overview of the VAR. Let me know if you did know all those rules or not, and don't be all macho about it. Be honest and truthful. Let's just quickly touch on how VAR actually works. Now, most of this I already knew, so if I knew it, what do I know? I think most of you will as well. But for the few, look, there are quite a few people who do get in touch with me saying they've only recently become Forest fans at the start of the year and things like that. So maybe to you guys who don't know how it works, let's quickly run through it. So, who's in the VAR room? In the Premier League, there's a lead official who will make the judgment on all reviews. There'll also be an assistant official who continues to watch the live game while the lead handles the review. The third person is the Hawkeye operator who controls the technology and is independent of the decision-making process. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? I personally didn't know there was 3 of them there. I thought it'd be one of them looking at it. Now, when does the VAR check an incident? Every moment is watched for an infringement or missed incident, and all goals are checked regardless with the goals. If they have no incidents or any controversy, they're still checked for all types of infringements just in case. I think this is an interesting one. What's the difference between a check and a review? Because you do see it come up sometimes being checked and sometimes reviewed. So let me quickly tell you what a check is. The VAR watches the replay of an incident before allowing play to continue. Most checks are completed so quickly that players and fans are not aware they have happened. So that's on a check. And on a review, the referee might delay the restart of the play, signalling by placing his finger to his ear while the VAR investigates a possible offence. If the VAR believes an incorrect decision has been made by the ref on a subjective incident, the ref will watch the incident on the pitch side monitor, as we saw with Brighton's penalty, to confirm that he will change his decision. A review will only be instigated by the VAR if he believes the decision is wrong. And I think that's the key word there. If he thinks it's wrong, it becomes that instigates it. So again, it becomes subjective, doesn't it? Because why do the refs, when called to the monitor, just because the person who's calling them to the monitor thinks that it's wrong, automatically feel obliged to do it? I think they need to go one of 2 ways here. Either they take any VAR calls out. I'd get rid of the monitor and get the person who's looking at it to make the call. Or they just, someone somewhere is obviously telling the refs, if you're being called over, you're wrong, and change your decision. Because do you know how many incidents have been overturned in the Premier League this season on VAR checks? Well, I'll tell you what, we're about to get into it, but quickly put it in the comments or in the live comments while we're doing the premium of how many you think have been overturned in the Premier League this season so far when the ref has gone to the monitor. All right, so let's get into the overall stats. The answer's there on your screen. It's like you had 2 seconds to answer it, I know. But have a look at this. In total, VAR has overturned 46 decisions this season so far, with only 2 rejected overturns. One of them obviously being the Forest one, where a penalty was awarded to us. The ref went and checked it, and he actually went against the people in Stockley Park, which made my jaw drop. If you look at the breakdown of these, 15 of these overturns were leading to goals, 15 of these were leading to disallowed goals, and 15 of these were penalties were awarded, should I say. Of those 15, pens for handball were 8, and penalties that were overturned were 5, one of which was a penalty, but because it was offside, wasn't given. And then you can carry on. Some of these are a bit more non-interesting, like the penalty retakes, 1 for the encroachment, goals ruled out for offside, 9, goals awarded for incorrect offside, 5, so more ruled out than given, and goals ruled out for handball, 1, and goals ruled out for a foul, 6, as well as 3 red cards being given and 2 red cards being overturned. They're quite interesting stats to see. For me, the 15s are weird, but I don't think they should mean anything. But what's interesting still is there shouldn't be the element of doubt with VAR. And that's still the hard thing with it. I am okay with VAR for offside decisions because, look, as long as they get their stupid lines right, you're either onside or you're offside. With penalty decisions, it's still subjective. And I don't actually know, and maybe you guys have ideas of how these can be done, because they're so subjective. It's not an objective kind of thing at all that you can do with it. My best suggestion that I've come up with is set a clock, have 30 seconds, and then if they haven't figured it out within 30 seconds, then the time runs out and it's the on-field decision that sticks through. I would also like to see a way in which VAR is changed in its presentation, because when it comes up on the board, it will say checking for disallowed goal or checking for a goal or whatever the example might be. For me, it needs to just say very simply checking for clear and obvious error, and then in brackets, offside, goal, whatever it is. Well, the goal wouldn't be clear and obvious. It's either a goal or it's not. But does that make sense? Because that's what we're always told VAR is there for, clear and obvious errors. But again, even that in itself is subjective. What is the line where something goes from not being clear and obvious to being clear and obvious as well? There needs to be some clarification on that. VAR has had its controversy from day one coming into the Premier League, and it's been treated and used really badly in comparison with other sports, like you see tennis, just like that. Again, with tennis, it's more an objective opinion rather than a subjective one, because either the ball's hit the line or it's out of the line, etc. But if you look at things like cricket, where they do have some subjectivity with, say, an LBW or something, they have put in clear rules onto what is given out and what isn't, based on how much of the ball, for example, is bouncing over the bails. But even though technically sometimes they could be out and they're given in, at least they have defined rules about what is accepted and what isn't. So you can see there's that give and take for what the margin of error is in terms of subjectivity. And I think that works quite well. And maybe these things should be brought into football to have some guidelines on what subjectivity is as well. I think the hardest thing, as I mentioned in the video earlier when we did the in-depth analysis, is how do you judge intensity by watching a replay? Anything being slowed down never looks as intense as it is, or can look more intense than it did in real time. And I think a good thing to do with this would be potentially on fouls and things like that, not to allow a slow motion view of that to be used by VAR. They would have to judge it in real time. Why do I think this? Because the ref himself is judging it in real time. Therefore, why should they be allowed to judge it any differently? Maybe the ref gets to have another look at it in the monitor in real time and make his judgment there. Because anything that's slowed down, and you can look, I promise you, I can do it myself when I'm editing and creating videos, is that anything that you slow down or zoom in or freeze frame on, you can talk to it from your advantage or your disadvantage or whatever, and it becomes subjective again based on the angle you're looking at something, or the way, or what your agenda is, or what you want to perceive it. So for me, I think slowing down replays should be taken out completely and done in real times. If we determine that a ref is good enough to ref a match in real time on the field, then he should be even better. It should be so easy for him or whoever's in Stockley Park to look at something in real time and determine whether or not they still think it's right or wrong. Maybe a million miles off the mark, but I think that does have some legs in it. And that would take away the stupidity of seeing that the one we saw on Saturday with Henderson, how much it was slowed down, the 3 minutes it took for it to happen, how it looks more intense in terms of the action against the Brentford striker's leg. And I just think, look at it in real time. You're paid enough as a referee to do it. You're meant to be experienced enough to do it. And now we're giving you an opportunity to look in a monitor at something you judged in real time on the pitch. You should be able to easily judge that off a monitor in real time as well. Just my thoughts. Let me know what you think about that one. All right, guys, so let's move on to the fun stuff. Fun and frustrating stuff, but it's always interesting to see how all the teams are benefiting or not benefiting from VAR this season. So let's see if you guys were right. Remember at the start of the video, I asked you who do you think was the biggest beneficiary of VAR? I'm about to reveal it to you. But just before I do, let me know how plus or minus you think Nottingham Forest are. If you're watching this live in the Premier, chuck it in the live comments now. If you're watching this later, chuck it in the comments down below. What I mean by that, let's just say that Forest had 3 decisions go for them in VAR to their positive, and they had 3 go against them to their negative, then overall there'll be a 0. If they had 4 go in their favour and 3 against them, then there'll be a +1. If they had 3 go for them and 4 go against them, then be a -1, that kind of thing. So give me your plus or minus on where you think Nottingham Forest are, and how high or low down this VAR table do you think they actually are. So let's get into it while you guys get your comments in. Who do you think is top? I would have said Man U, because it's always Man U. Man U, I don't care what tables say, it's always Man U, in my opinion, because they are the biggest cheats in the Premier League throughout the last 15 to 20 years by a country mile. And I don't care if you lot say that's subjective, it's facts, it's the truth, it's my opinion on it. But it's not them this season so far. It's not Man City, it's not Arsenal, it's not Liverpool, it's actually Newcastle United. The problem is, I don't know how to take the mick out of them. It's not as easy to put a VAR like it is with a Liverpool or a Arsenal or a Manchester United. What the hell do you do with the Newcastle? One of you is going to be creative enough to let me know. And spacebar if you're watching. Maybe this is why you're third. All right, so we'll go through Newcastle's very quickly just so you guys get the idea. So in Newcastle matches, there have been 7 overturned in their games. So 2 leading towards goals, 1 leading towards a disallowed goal in their favour, 1 leading to a goal against, 1 leading to a disallowed goal against, subjective decisions for 5, subjective decision against 1, net subjective score 4, red cards, penalties, blah, blah, blah. So overall, they come out with a +5 score on this one. So they had more go in their favour by 5 than against them. In place number 2, and I won't read out all their details, well, of course it would be Brentford, wouldn't it? Because this is live and has the stats up until and including the Forest match, which is just crazy to see. And there you have it, just to confirm to you guys. Let me just scroll it above my head. Incident against Forest. I don't know why it says October. It was actually the 5th of November. The penalty awarded for a foul by Dean Henderson on Vissa, 44th minute against Nottingham Forest. Then, of course, Fulham are up there. Then Liverpool. Then West Ham. Then Palace. Palace, man, I can't believe they're up there. Everton are in the positive. Leicester are in the positive. Chelsea are neutral. Man United are neutral, as in 0. Arsenal, who are top of the league, have been screwed technically by VAR. And then Villa. And then finally, we get to Nottingham Forest, which is the one we're here because we all care about, obviously, Nottingham Forest. So Nottingham Forest are -1. So we've had more go against us than for us. So overturns are 6, Rejected overturns 1. That's the one I mentioned to you about, the penalty that we still got given. And there was only 2 of those, as I mentioned earlier, all season across the Premier League. Leading to goals for 0, shock horror. Disallowed goals for 1. I think that was the West Ham one. Actually, the details are all below. We'll go through those in a second. Leading to goals against 2. Disallowed goals against 1. Net goals scored -2. Subjective decisions for 3. Subjective decisions against a 3 as well. Net subjective score, obviously they cancel each other out to a 0. And penalties for and against, 1 penalty for, 3 against. And we haven't had any red card or yellow cards. So let's just refresh everyone's memory on where these incidents happened. So the first one that happened was against West Ham. It was the disallowed goal where Mangala got absolutely knocked over by Antonio. They went and scored the goal and it got disallowed. And I think that was the correct decision. We then had Brennan Johnson's goal ruled out for offside in the 53rd minute. Again, that's more of an objective view because they were able to put the lines down. I still think he was onside. And then we had obviously the penalty for Declan Rice because McKenna decided to handball, but obviously Dino saved that one. Then we go to the Bournemouth match, which had the overturned rejected penalty against Ruben Neves. I think that was the shot from... sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. The penalty scored by Brennan Johnson for the handball by Lloyd Kelly. I think it was the Nico Williams shot that caught his hand. So that went in our favour. So we've got a 4 there. Win the Wolves one, we had an against and a 4, the Harry Tuffalo penalty. And then we had the penalty that we missed, which was in the end given for the foul on Ryan Yates. But they were also checking for a handball in that one. That was a weird one as well. And then we've had the Brentford one from this weekend, where the penalty was awarded for a foul on Dean Henderson. By Dean Henderson, sorry, should I say. And that one went against us. And that's how we've ended up with the net loss of 1. Just in case you're interested, I don't know if you are, the worst team for being screwed with VAR is Manchester City with -3. That is unbelievable to see. Very interesting. So, is the myth true that the big 6 clubs always get the decisions go in their favour? This would actually say no, which is very, very interesting. And just behind them is Bournemouth. Probably because they can't afford the technology in their stadium because the stadium's so small. It probably can't fit in an extra monitor. So it doesn't surprise me. But anyway, so that's really where we are. What this video, well, what these stats don't tell you is how many things have not been looked at. Like, I'm not sure if the Dennis one got looked at by VAR on Saturday. I'm not sure if I think the MGW one did get looked at. But who is deciding as well when an incident should be looked at or shouldn't be looked at? I cast your mind back at the start when I read the rules out and that it said that every single thing is monitored in the match to show you by VAR. So how are they missing these other incidents that they're not calling to look at? It baffles the mind. It really does. We will end the video there, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed that. I know there's been a lot of energy, emotion, and everything over this weekend because of VAR. So I thought, let's have a little kind of calmer video on it. Let's not lose our emotions with it. And let's talk through what it really does. See, I've said what I've said on it. I think the ref was horrific against us at the Brentford match. But to say VAR decisions can balance themselves out over the course of a season, those stats that I showed you there prove that they don't, but they shouldn't either, because this is meant to be technology which gets things right. So how can it balance itself out? That to me doesn't make logical sense. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the ideas I've come up with to maybe improve it slightly. And as well, do you want VAR just taken out of the game completely, or do you quite like it? My thoughts are, I still want VAR in the game because I think without it, the likes of Manchester United will get away with absolute murder like they were doing before it came in and actually still during having it here, but slightly less. And I think I would still like to believe that there is some honesty and integrity left in football and that referees should be brought to account. I think that's what we'll finish with, is the refereeing standard has dropped down so badly because they can hide behind VAR and not feel the pressure of having to make the big decisions on the pitch. And for me, that's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. If that is the case and they're going more and more substandard, then what's the point in having a ref on the pitch at all? You might as well let, iRobot ref, so to speak, do it from back at Stockley Park and just have a big announcement over the tannoy or a whistle sounding whenever there's a free kick. What's the point? So, refs, step your games up. Understand that every decision you make has ramifications to a fan base. You're either going to appease them or piss them off. There's no middle ground with it. But if you get your decisions right, or as close to right as you can and are consistent, we can understand it better. But when we see not just those penalty incidents that you're getting wrong, but when we're seeing fouls not being given, when we're seeing clear obstructions and things like that on the pitch that you're ignoring, and then you're setting the bar here for Forest and then here for Brentford, we can't. That's what I can't handle. Have the bar set in the middle for both teams. Be consistently good or consistently crap as long as you're being consistent. And then have VAR cover you, which needs to be perfect or as close to perfect as possible, but it needs to define the meaning of clear and obvious error. Thank you guys for watching. But if you haven't already, please don't forget to like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to become a member, remember we've got that fun giveaway coming. We'll be doing some charity work with it as well. Please do become a member for your chance to join in on that. I'll reveal more for you guys tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow for the Forest news as well as the Forest Forum in the evening. We got a sick panel lined up for you guys tomorrow. And come on, you Reds.